Alright guys, so one of the first things I'm going to do to this car is I have a front lip right here. So I'm going to install this front lip. This, if you guys are interested, this is the EOS or Extreme Online Store front splitter, all carbon fiber. But I did open it just a little bit so I could take a peek at the carbon fiber. Gives you all of the hardware you're going to need, and this thing was actually packaged pretty good, so I will throw down a link for this if you guys are interested. I have seen this on other cars and it actually fits up pretty good for the price of it. So let's get started. I have the car slightly on an incline, so hopefully I won't have to jack it up. If I do, I might, but hopefully I can just do it on the ground because the car is at factory height right now. So let's unbox this, take a look at this thing, and then figure out how to throw this thing on. Like I said, it's packaged really good for such a small spoiler. Don't know how much you can really see the carbon fiber weave on here, but it looks pretty good. This should complement the roof pretty good for the carbon fiber accents that it has. Comment down below if you think we should throw a clear PPF on there to give it that glossy look. But anyways, let's get all this boxed away and then let's take a look at how this is gonna mount. All right, so I'm just gonna mock this up just to see how it fits. But looking at it, it looks like it's molded pretty good to the GR bumper. It actually looks really nice, to be honest with you. I think this uses some of the factory bolts. I guess we'll dig in and see how this goes. Looking at this spoiler, everything seems to be pretty nice, and I was a little confused at what all of these other holes were, but it looks like they are additional holes other than the factory holes. So you'll have the factory bolts that hold on the bumper here, which are all the back ones, and then these front ones are additional holes to give you further support. So what I probably might do is I'm just gonna start bolting this up just a little bit, so that way I have a little bit of wiggle room, figure out where I need to put the tape at, and then if I need the additional screw holes, I will use them. So let's start by giving this all a really good clean. They also do give you an alcohol towel, but I'll use that on the spoiler and right before I put the tape on. But right now I'm just gonna use a good detailer and clean everything up. All right, so what I'm gonna do first, I'm just gonna take all the 10mm, all those 10mm bolts that are holding on the undercover. I'm just gonna take all those off, and then I'm gonna start using them just to slowly hand tighten from here, just so I can keep the spoiler kind of in the general idea where it's supposed to be, and then we'll figure out if I need additional screw holes or not. So, but yeah, should be a 10mm and potentially a stubby screwdriver if you're doing this on the ground. Obviously, if you have a lift or whatever, it'll be easier to get the car off the ground, but more relatable just doing it on the ground because not many people have the equipment to do all that stuff. So, but yeah, let's start taking those bolts off. Alright, so one thing I was looking at when I was taking these screws off, when you get to this section of the bumper underneath, there's actually two screws holding, one's holding an under tray and one's holding the bumper. So you're actually going to skip this screw and then go to this screw. So you're going to leave these on, they're not going to be touched. These are the ones that you want to get to, so because otherwise there's no hole that corresponds with the other one, because it should be like somewhere over here. So, and there's not even one there. So just to give you a heads up so you don't take off more screws than you need, just make sure you take the ones off that are holding on the blue. Well, in my case it's blue, whatever color you're using. I honestly just have two screws loosely holding this thing in, and it actually is like fitting really nicely so far. So I mean, they're not even fully tightened up and everything is like kind of going right into place. I would definitely say fitment so far is pretty good, but let me finish getting farther along. And I don't even know if I'm going to need the tape or not, because the screws honestly seem to be doing a really good job. If you really don't want to screw into your bumper, then I could completely understand using the tape. To be honest with you, putting 2, maybe 3 holes in the bumper underneath is not a deal breaker for me. So sometimes the tape is worse to deal with than a little screw hole that no one's ever going to see. But I could be wrong. Maybe let me know your thoughts down below about drilling a hole into your bumper that no one's ever going to see, and it's most likely going to get scraped up anyways. So, but let me continue putting on the rest of these screws loosely and see if I'm going to need the tape or the extra screws. I got all, I think it was like 7 screws or 8 screws or whatever. I think it was like 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and 1 in the middle. They're all loosely on there, and for the most part, it brought it up pretty good. I'm gonna finish tightening up a little bit more, but I think since those screws are recessed back compared to where the bumper is, I might have to use those additional screws just to try to support this thing up the rest of the way. But all in all, it looks really good fitment wise to the factory holes, lined up much better than, say, the spoiler I had from them. The spoiler using the factory holes is a little bit iffy, but this, I have to say, is way more perfect, and it just looks so much better. I definitely would say it looks really good. So let's finish tightening up all these screws, and I'll show you where I put the additional screws. But it definitely looks like this corner here, that corner will need one. Not sure if the middle will or not. Maybe might need to put 3 or 4 screws in here for the additional support, just so that way this thing doesn't fall off either. I put 1 additional screw in over here. It was like probably right where this stick out happens right here. There was a hole for a screw there, and now you can see when I move the splitter, the whole bumper moves. But now if I come to this side, you can see the splitter moves a lot more than the bumper. So and you can see the gap right here. There's a decent sized gap, but then over here the gap is non-existent. So it looks like the 1 screw hole, if you look close, I don't know if you guys can actually see it or not, but if I bend down that just a little bit, there's one of those foam washers that has a pre-drilled hole here. I just took one of the supplied screws and I put it on there. So like I said, I did this with no tape. I don't see the reason to have tape when you have all the screws on here. So like I said, usually people would go either or. I don't think I would. The tape almost seems overkill at this point. I was actually in the middle of wiping this down, and I realized that I needed a little bit more support over here. So I ended up putting a 3rd and 4th screw, like generally I think it was like right around this point here. So now, I mean, this thing seems super rigid, so the only way it would come off is if you take the bumper off, or obviously you hit something pretty good. But one thing I was just thinking is, if you use just the factory screw holes, you have to unbolt that every time and take your splitter off just to take your bumper off. So that is a reason why you might want to permanently attach it to your bumper somehow, whether it's the screws or the tape. So don't think you're not going to need that, but you just might need that in general, because if you ever take your bumper off, it's utilizing the bumper screws to hold it on. But if you attach it permanently like I did with the screws or the tape, you should be fine too, so that way you can take it off every time with your bumper. So, but oh my god, this thing looks super amazing. I highly recommend it. The fitment of this, I was a little worried about fitment wise, because the spoiler I had put on my last one was iffy at first, but overall it was a 9 out of 10. But just the placement of some stuff was kind of bad. But this, I have to say, they did a little bit more R&D on this, and it knocks it out of the park with installation and everything. So, and again, I did everything on the ground with about 6 inches of clearance, with literally just a, highly recommend like a stubby screwdriver, Phillips, and then a 10 millimeter. But let's pull it out just a little bit get it into somewhat of a sunny place, and let's take a look at how this thing looks. I have to say, this splitter looks so nice. The carbon fiber, the black carbon fiber, not like carbon fiber comes in any other color, but the black with the blue just sets this off super nicely. So from afar, it just looks like a nice black blue combo, and then when you get in closer, you have the amazing, nicely done carbon fiber weave. So one thing, I mean, I do wish it was the same type of forged carbon that was on the top, but I'm not gonna complain. Not many people do the forged carbon. I don't know if the forged carbon is harder to do, or if more people like the more uniform look of the weaved carbon fiber. But with all that being said, if you guys are interested in this splitter or anything else, I always put the links down below. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.